Hello and welcome to another episode of Advanced WordPress Theme Development. In the previous video we learned about how to create a custom block. In this video we'll continue further and we're going to add the icon for it, right? So there are two icons I'm going to use. I have already downloaded them. You can do that as well. I got that. You can do that as well, and you can probably go to my repository and take it from there. It should be in the branch. I mean, by the time you watch the video it should be in master, but for now it is inside of heading with icon block. And I'm going to go to assets, source, and then icons. So you can go ahead and save it if you want. You can click on raw and then right click and then save as and just save it. Alright, I already got that, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. So I've got the check icon, I've got the cross icon. I'm just going to use them. Okay, so where do we put them? So they need to go inside of the source directory. So I'm going to go to my theme and then source directory, and I'm going to create a folder called icons, and inside of it I'm going to paste these two. So I have got check, I've got SVG. Now when I want to consume it inside of a React application, you may have observed that a lot of time you have to correct it and make it JSX compatible. This is in red, and then some of the properties like XML space just doesn't exist. So there's a lot of work that goes on in making sure that all of the attributes are compatible, and we have to edit them as well to turn them into JSX. So to save that, we have something available called SVG CLI package, right? So let me show that to you. SVG CLI. So what this does is basically you can give it like any of the SVG icons, and it's going to ensure that it's going to convert it into it's not going to do anything to the source file, but it's going to output a React component with all of the correct attributes that are required. And it, to be honest, if you ask me, it saves a lot of time for me. Do I have to use it in the production? No, I don't have to. It's only for development purposes, so it's okay. I don't have to worry about the bundle size and stuff like that. Yep. So let's go ahead and install it. Make sure you add this -d attribute, sorry, -d flag, so that it doesn't get added to production. Once we do that, we also need to give it a path, a proper path. So I'm going to go to my package.json, and by the time it's already been added to the dev dependency, which is great. I'll come in over here and I'll write a script for this, and I'll call it as SVG. You can call it whatever you want. You can even call it like SVG : generate, but I'm going to stick with SVG, which is fine. So the command is you have to add SVGR and then whatever options are there. So I'm going to use SVGR, and then there are different options available, like for D and then whatever your output directory is. So I'll say D, and then I want to output it inside of the JavaScript directory, and I want it to automatically create icons directory and put all of the SVG React component inside of them. So I'm going to say source, because remember we are in the root right now, so it has to go to source and then JS, and then finally create an icons directory if it doesn't already exist. If it does, it won't create a new directory, it'll just put it inside of it. Then we need to also give it where do we want to pick it from. So what's the source of it? So source is actually source and then icons. So I'll just put that. So it's going to take anything that you put, any SVG you're going to put over here. It's going to convert, it's going to create React components out of them with proper attributes and everything. So let's give it a try. Let's see some magic happening. Yeah. So I'm going to say npm run SVG. See what happens. Oh, congratulations! Can you see it has created from check SVG? It's created a React component called check.js, and similarly for cross SVG. So let's take a look. There you go. In icons, it's created this check SVG, and now it's got everything that you need. You can remove the React because We don't need React in scope. React is already available by Gutenberg, so we don't need to worry about that. Now you can see that it's put everything the way it should be, ideally with width and all of that, all of the props and everything. Yeah, this is great. Same thing goes for cross. We've got the index as well, and it's exporting you know, these components by default over here, so you can export everything from this index itself. Alright, this is great. This is amazing. I think it saves a lot of work and time for you as well, and because it's a dev dependency, we don't have to worry about the space it's going to consume. So let's change everything back to the way it was before. So we had pulled attributes. Let's put that back. We had pulled class name. Put that back. And then we had also put we had pulled the set attributes. I'm just going to pull that as well. Okay, great. This is clear. Let's clean it up a bit, and let's clean this part as well. Great, awesome. So I want to be able to use these icons, and how we're going to do is basically I want to be able to have the option on the right hand side in the settings to be able to switch between those icons. So how do we do that? So first of all, you can have a radio control. So let's try that. So I have radio control component in Gutenberg. So this one, how does that work? Let's take a look. So this is a radio component, and this is its usage. It's available inside of WordPress components, right? And these are the options that it uses. But for us to be able to use it, it's better to wrap it inside of a panel body, right? And panel body is going to be what you see here. Alright, so panel body is also available inside of the WordPress components. So I'm going to say import panel body from WordPress components. I'm going to import radio control, and then also want the inspector control. So anything that you put inside of the inspector control component is not going to be shown in the editor here, it will show over here. The inspector controls, and then it's inside of the block editor. We don't need build and all of that stuff, it's fine. In fact, it's already on top, so we can just put that there. And all of these things we actually need inside of edit, sorry, not here, inside of the edit. So import inspector controls, and then we don't need the build and components, it's directly inside of the block editor. If you want to take a look at what it does, Gutenberg, you can check it out. Because we've already got that pulled on top, we can actually use the same thing over here like so. Okay, so let's get it in action. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this inspector control first. So I'll come in over here and I'll say inspector controls, and then inside of this I'm going to have panel body, and then panel body can have a title. So I'll say title, and I'll call it as block settings, and the namespace, sorry, the text domain, and then I want the radio control like so. So what does this radio control take? Let's find out. So if you take a look, it takes label. So I'm going to use a label here, and let's call it as select the icon, and again you have the text domain, and then you can also add help just if you want to add more description or instructions. Controls the icon selection, again text domain, and then next thing it will be selected, and you have to put option over there. So we've already got we don't have the option pulled, so remember that at the time of registration of the attributes we named this as option. So let's pull that out. In fact, this should be first, and then we can say selected as option. So remember, this one is this option, it's going to be used here. And then in the options we have to pass what are the different options that are available. Okay, so I'm going to use that, like copy it. So the label can be do's, so make sure to translate it Aquila, and this can be don'ts, and then the text domain. Okay, what will be the value? Value can be do's and then don'ts. Okay, awesome. And then we also need to add an on change function. So if I'll just copy this one, option instead of set state is going to be set attributes, and then I have to pass the option like so, right? And this, you would notice that it'll be able to change that. So let's console out option and see what happens. Of course I have to restart the development server, npm run dev, which was not running. Great. I'm gonna go over here, refresh, and then click on this. There you go, congratulations, you've got your block settings. Isn't that wonderful? So take a look. So panel body has the block settings, that's the label we put. So now you can see you can minimize it. So you've got inspector control with panel body. Then you have the radio control, which is what we see here. Select the icon, which is the label. Then you have the options, which is do's and don'ts. This is it. And then the values will be do's and don'ts for these. And then we have the checkbox. We also have the help section. You can see that there's a help section there, which is brilliant, I think. And let's take a look. If I do selection of the block, and if I hit don'ts, you can see that the option value changes to don'ts. If I hit do's, then it goes to do's, which is great, right? And if I just refresh this again, you can notice that and by default it's going to have the value as do's, because that's what we set the default value as. Okay, which is great. Awesome. All we have to do now is that because we have these values, we want to render those icons dynamically. So how do we render those icons? What we're going to do is we're going to create a map for those icons. So we're going to create so we're going to go to the Gutenberg heading icon, and we will name the file as icons map.js. Then we're going to go ahead and do export const. We're going to create a function. We'll name it as get icon component, because I need to be able to get the caret component based on what value is passed in the option. So if the value of the option is passed as do's, then I want to be able to have the component which is check. Otherwise, if it's don't, I want to have the cross component. Yeah. So how do we do that? We'll take the parameter as option, and we'll say const, create a constant called icons map equals, when we get a value of do's, so I'll create a property name, then it should give me SVG icons dot check. So I have to of course import first of all of the icons, all of the icon as SVG icons, SVG icons from wherever my icons are. Yep. So these are my icons. Yeah. So I'm importing all of it. So all of them with what name? With the name is SVG icons. So because I will have all of those icons available inside of this SVG icons, I can do like a dot check. So it's going to give me this one, and if I do dot cross, it's going to give me this component. All right. So let's do the don'ts also. So don'ts SVG icons dot, you can see now I have these available, I can choose. Yeah. So let's go with the cross. Oops, cross, which is great. Awesome. Now I want to return. Okay, before we return it, I want to show you something. Remember we spoke about that the Dependency Manager, which is this plugin, basically the dependency extraction WEBPACK plugin, already extracts whatever you are using in the import. So if you notice, what are we using in the import? We are using like panel, we are using components, using block editor, we're using internationalization package. So take a look in the build in the assets directory. I'm gonna make it proper. See what happens. Can you see in the block.js, it's pulled up block editor, blocks, components, I18. These are the ones we are using, right? I didn't have to do anything. It already pulled it up, which is pretty great if you ask me. It saves my time. Previously, when I didn't have this option available, I had to wonder, what am I supposed to include? What am I supposed to exclude? I was like so confused, but now I don't have to worry. I don't have to go and check. It's going to manage things automatically. So let's continue further, and we'll keep seeing its magic. Next thing I'm going to do is return the correct components. How do we return that? The first thing I'm going to do is validation check, which means if at all the option is not empty. So remember, we have the low dash available now. So is empty option, of course you have to import it, like I explained to you in the previous videos why we have to import it. Empty from low dash. And now we're going to, in case if that's so, if it's not empty and the option that has been passed, which could be either do or do's or don'ts, is in the icons map object, then in that case give me the icons map option, which means if it's do's, then give me the svg icons.check, the check component. If the value of the option is don't, then give me the cross component. Otherwise, just give me the default icons map do's, so that if nothing is passed by default, it should just give me the do's, which is the check component. All right, brilliant. So all I have to do now is just call this function. So what I'm going to do is I'll come in over here, and below this attributes, I will call that function and store its value in heading icons. This will be my component that will be rendered dynamically. So get icon component, and then I'm going to pass the option. and see what happened here. It automatically updated. I mean, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't, right? So take a look what happened. Can you see that it's added Lodash automatically? I mean, how good is that? Right. So of course it didn't add it before because I never called that function, but as soon as I did, the moment I called this function, and because I have used the isEmpty and I'm importing it from Lodash, it automatically detected that okay, it's supposed to pull that from WordPress. Right? Awesome. This is great. As a dependency, of course. Okay, great. So all I'm going to do is just use this heading icon, and that's it. So inside of the span tag, I'm going to use it, heading icon, as a component because it's returning a component. All right. And the best part is that we also have to call the same function. In fact, we can call the same function in our save as well, because remember, we have to show that, I have to save that information in the database. So let's do const. In fact, let me just copy and paste. Why am I worrying about? Okay, and then I'm just going to use the heading icon inside of this, so it gets saved into the database. So, and this should have already been included on top. There you go. And option, I need to pull it from the attributes because that's where we passed it, the attributes. Yeah, awesome, great. Let's try it. I'm gonna refresh. Of course, it's showing unexpected invalid content because things have changed, but yeah, if I go ahead and now if I hit heading with icons, great, this is awesome. I'm getting that icon. The only issue with this is that the size of it is really big, so all I have to do is just update the size of it. So all I can do is just quickly go to my icons, which is source icons, and I'm gonna change this 512 to, let's say, 18. I think 18 would be good, or 20 or whatever. And then let me change that as well to 18. Remember, we have to run the SVG function again because for the updates. So let's do that. npm run SVG. There you go. It's going to generate that automatically. npm run dev again, and that should do the job. Let's take a look. I'm going to refresh the page. There you go. It's small, but of course things have changed, so it's just showing us. Alright, this is great. We've got the small icon, and see what happens. I'm going to show you a couple of things. So take a look in the edit. I'm going to console the value of the option and component. So what is the option and what is the component that we're getting for that option? Let's take a look. And update it, refresh. So first of all, we have the first one because that's the default one. You can see option is do's, and then we're getting SVG check for that. Why? Is because in the icons map we said that if whatever the default value is, give me the do's. Yeah, so that's what it's giving me, the SVG check, which is this one. And now if I go to the settings, if I change it, there you go. Awesome. Isn't that amazing? It's changed it automatically. Like, that's why JavaScript is so powerful. I mean, there's no page refresh, there's nothing. Unlike PHP, you have the result available immediately. So you can see that in the option we have don'ts, and then we have the SVG cross. I can even play with it. Can you see it's moving? Notice what happens here, right? I can play with it. I can do it all day. But we don't have time for that, so let's continue. Let's move on. All right, so congratulations, we have built our functionality. All I have to do is just write some CSS, and that should be it. So what I'm going to do is I'll get rid of the console and stuff. And I'm also going to just quickly add some CSS for this. So I'm going to go to source. I'm going to create a directory called blocks. Inside of it, I will create a file called heading with icons.scss, and then I'm just going to use some classes that we have defined earlier to target them. I'm just going to paste the CSS right in so that I don't take your time in explaining the CSS, as this is not a CSS tutorial. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and include this inside of blocks, so I can just say blocks and then import it. There's going to be 7 blocks, and then inside of that we have heading with icons, and hopefully that should do the magic. Let's refresh. There you go, congratulations. Now I can play with it. There you go, awesome. Let's update it and then view the post. There you go. So you've got the CSS applied on the front end as well as the back end. I can have as many such blocks as I want. I can do like again, and I can call this as stones. Oops. Okay, I can also add an anchor tag as well, by the way, just to let you know. And I can change this to don'ts. I can update it, and then if I go to the front end, there you go, we've got both. This is awesome. So congratulations everyone, you're just working perfectly fine with our icon. You can have different icons that you want, it's completely your choice. You can also have option to upload the icon directly rather than having to hard code that. I did that because we're doing just do's and don'ts, so we only need 2. Doesn't make sense to have an option of an specific icon, but you could do that. And you can do the image upload as well, SVG upload. Okay, alright, so in the next video we're going to learn further how we can use the core blocks to do a combination of this custom block plus those core blocks to create a column, 2-column layout with do's and don'ts and all of those lists. Yeah, so I hope you did like the video. If you did, please give a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and do star my repository to support my work, and please follow me on GitHub, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye.